All right, guys, welcome back to the Trial and Error podcast. We're here with our guest, Mr. Yukk, Trav, whatever you want to call him. You can find us on Instagram Live right now. Hello. You can find us on Google Play, Spotify, Apple Music pretty soon, or the trialanderrorpodcast.com. Actually, sorry, that's just trialanderrorpodcast.com. Anyways, we got another round of shots here, so let's do some cheers, boys.
Yeah. Producer Aaron, let's not forget about you this time.
Yeah. We all got a drink.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right. So we were touching on this a little bit earlier, how your personal lives reflect, obviously, the music that you're making. And we were talking about the first 48, how that was kind of maybe a darker time, a little bit hostile or whatever.
Hella hostile.
Right. But your next project, Level Up with Sean Prince. Tell me about that.
My guy.
Tell me about that.
Level Up with Sean Prince. That's my dude, one of my best friends. I met him. So at that time, that was after like first 48, and I think you kind of took a little hiatus from production, and I kind of had to get out there, and that was my first time being without like an in-home producer and shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't have any producer. You were my guy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh shit, I'm just out here, bro. So I had to find a way to like still, create and still keep going and stuff like that. So I ended up getting in this group called Sound Mob, which is where I actually kind of really formed a relationship later with Keem and Sean Prince, because he was in that big collective. Keem had started the Sound Mob, and it was just a big group of people, and they were all moving towards, being a musical conglomerate. I ended up meeting those two guys through there, and I met Keyshawn through that, and we moved away from that, and we all stayed friends, us three. And what I noticed about Keyshawn or Sean Prince is that when I heard his music, like he was spitting at a level where I felt like, okay, like this motherfucker got me sweating every time I get on the track. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, like I wanted a challenge. And not only that, he was like, he knew other people, he knew producers, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. And he was just a phenomenal rap. Like when I get next to a talent, or somebody like that has a high level of talent, and I sit there and listen to them rap or watch them do what they do, I get goosebumps. And it's the competitor in me. I want to be next to that talent. I want to test my talent against that so that I can, so I know, like, okay, like, are you good enough to, you know what I'm saying? So me and him, we linked up and ended up pretty much just formulating a plan to do a whole album together. And the whole album we did, like, we're going head to head lyric. Like every time he would send his verse or go write his verse or whatever, I would always be like, damn, like, or every time I would get the beat and I would start the track, I'd be like, damn, bro, like, okay, pull the bars out. Cause he has this crazy style. Like his punchlines are crazy. His flow is crazy. His content's crazy. Like it was just a challenge overall. So I wanted to make myself better by doing a whole album with somebody that has that's at a high level. And doing that whole album, like we went through a lot of shit to do that. Like it was my first step into really like doing a professional album, because we did all that at Undercast Studios, which is like my home. Like I go there all the time. I love that place. And we ended up going there and creating that album. And like the process of it was me and him always linking together, sometimes writing our rhymes together, sometimes writing our rhymes apart, but we would always come together and just like put this shit together. And you know what I'm saying? It's just, it was the first professional. I learned about track outs. I learned about all these different production terms, and it was my first step into real like professional music making. I had never been into a big studio before I did that album with him.
I went to Undercast with you one time.
Yeah.
And Aaron, did you go too? Oh,
Where the fuck was I?
I don't know, man.
No invite?
Well, apparently Aaron and I went to Undercast with you once. And I remember, like, that was, to me, felt like a new chapter. And I could be wrong on this. I want to ask you. It seems like there's a lineup at that studio. Because at that time, you had, I think, the 12 a.m. recording spot.
Yeah.
And you would get there at midnight.
Yeah.
Is that still the average? Like, or have you moved to kind of recording more during the day?
Me personally, at that, man, it was so wild. At that time, like, Undercast was like, bro, like, you get in the Undercast and do shit is top level shit. So we were just taking anything we could fucking get, and they had the late night shit. And outside of the music, you know, you're always busy. I'm always busy. Like, I'm always hustling. I'm always trying to get further. You know what I'm saying? So that was the only time we really had, bro, to get into the studio. We were both busy. So we would take that late night shift, like 12 o'clock to like 1 a.m., some crazy shit like that. And we did that shit for months. Like, I'm talking about, like, motherfuckers would have to go to work the next day, bro. Like, we're leaving the studio at 2, 3 a.m., going straight into our day, like, because that's just the way we had to get it. Because I think that was, I think at that time that was the only slot that was available because they were so busy. But we realized that, you know, we just learned about making ourselves a priority, because at the time we were kind of like, I don't want to say half-assing it, but we were trying to kind of, you know, get the little 3 hours here, you know what I'm saying? Or then the next maybe 2 weeks. It wasn't consistent, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we learned that we needed to become a priority in order to actually complete something and have these people take us seriously. So we made a schedule with them, and we actually started getting in there every week, every other week.
Still at that time?
Still at that time, at midnight.
Damn.
We bro, period. Like, when I go now, like, now it's different. I always usually do the late shifts because I just be busy during the day, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, yeah, we would take that time anytime. Anything we could get, we would take it and figure it out.
How well, that's interesting too, because I mean, level up. It sounds like that's what you guys were doing at that time. You were both taking it to a new level, where you were in a new environment that was more professional. You were making those sacrifices to make sure that your work was getting accomplished, and it fucking shows. I mean, that album is produced incredibly well. It sounds super dope. You got a couple of really nice music videos for that, and like the whole Kobe and Shaq dynamic of it. Like, I love that it was a collaborative album, but at the same time you were kind of battling each other the whole time.
Yeah, that was.
And I think it elevated both of you.
Yeah, there was a certain amount of, like, I think you were in a way. You've talked about, you know, being competitive. I think you were both being competitive with each other and kind of pushing each other to. You were trying to one up each other a little bit.
Yeah, every time.
And it showed, and it was like it made both it just from listening it, you can tell that you're both making each other better.
Oh yeah,
like
we're
you're
making
both
each other work hard. Like,
the
feeling you get when someone else, it's especially as a rapper, like I get when someone else, like another rap, especially a rapper that has a lot of punchlines and shit, that's really good, bro. That feeling you get where you're like, God damn. All right, man. Like, it would be sometimes, bro, where I would go to start to write my verse. And I'd be like, because I know he's about to bring out all these crazy punchlines, all these crazy bars. I'm like, fuck. All right, I gotta fucking bring out I gotta bring the swords out. I gotta be at top notch. You know what I'm saying? Every time. Can't slack.
Well, I think that was really important for you, because we talked about in the earlier part of the podcast going from somewhere like high school, now going into the real world. And you have to work at a different level. And so you found someone like Keyshawn who challenged you and pushed you and forced you to be better.
Yeah.
And I think it was important, and it kind of shows through on that album. It's pretty evident that you guys are pushing each other. It almost, I don't want to say there's a battle dynamic to it, but you can definitely tell you two are pushing each other.
Man. I mean, I think the first thing that you guys released together was that the Sneaky Freestyle number 4 or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
and Keem made the beat for that.
Keem
right?
actually made that beat,
bro.
Yeah.
That shit was dope, and the visuals for it were dope. And actually, that's another thing I want to talk about is your fucking visuals, bro. Yeah. Especially the Black Lives Matter music video. That one is crazy. Like, we were talking about this yesterday, and how the fuck did you pull that off? Were you really down in Pioneer Square with a dude who looks like a cop, who has something that looks like a gun, fucking throwing you on a car? Like, you didn't get permits for that or anything? Like, bro,
no permit, straight off.
How did that just? Yeah. How did you pull that off?
Just for the video thing, like, me personally, like, I always try to be as creative as possible. And I've, you know, just doing this for so long, you know, I see things that I don't like when I see other stuff. You know what I'm saying? I just want to get my vision across the best way I can. And I'll take any risk there is to take. What's crazy about that video is I was actually having my son. I got my son from the hospital, I think, that day.
Fuck, dude.
After, like, I think after or before, and the day before when I was shooting, I was having my son.
Wow.
Shit.
Also at that time, I was quitting my job and transitioning into trying to get to a certain place where I was a little bit more independent with myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that day I shot that, I went to the hospital after that, and I got my son out the hospital. That's when he was first born and shit. But yeah, I was downtown with no fucking permit. You know what I'm saying? I had to get all those props together. I had to put a lot of like.
You got a whole line of like SWAT team people with uniforms and everything,
it
bro.
really just,
Like
bro,
That's stock footage, huh?
Huh?
That's stock footage, right?
Oh yeah, some of that stuff is stock footage, but most of it, like,
but that's only logical. I mean,
Yeah.
like, if that stuff's available for $30 or $40 for the licensing, why would you pay thousands of dollars to put that shoot together?
Right.
But still, that's a whole different level. Like that video you and I shot for On the 6th, that was just us in the mud with one camera, shooting it. And at the time, it felt like a big production. But then you look at something like your Black Lives Matter video, and it's so many different things going on. What about this scene where you're in the field in the chains? Like, what process did you go through to make these props and these concepts available?
I will tell you right now, being in my fucking, what was it, those long johns or something like that? That was like being in that
like
grass
the
and shit.
Under Armour
Man,
shit.
goddamn, man, that shit was ass. But the actual videographer, he had came up with the idea to put that image across. I had to kind of come to terms with it myself, just to be a little bit more comfortable with doing it. You know what I'm saying? I got all the props and shit, and paid for everything and things like that, and acted it out. And the dude that's in that scene with me acting is he's an actual artist from Seattle. His name is Justin Hale, and he's super fucking dope, like immensely dope. Like I have to collaborate with him as soon as I can. But that whole image was just supposed to just be a raw image for people to see, because it was real at one point.
Right,
Absolutely.
It was real at one point. And
well, I mean, it still is.
and it still is. It's just evolved into something different. You know what I'm saying? But to do that at that level was just like, I just wanted to show an image that was actually real the best way I could. Like, I'm an independent artist. Everything I do comes out of my pocket. All these scenes are created out of my brain, and you know what I'm saying? I have to do all this shit, so I have to figure out ways to get my point across. And dealing with a song like that, like, I made that song after Eric Garner, when he had got killed in broad daylight for selling cigarettes on the street. At that time, like, I was so upset because I kept seeing that. I had seen that so much, that people getting killed, black people getting killed by police for next to nothing. And when I had seen that, I got so angry. I just got so upset, like really, really upset, because it was a compound interest of just seeing it all the time. Like, I don't think we're supposed to see that shit. Like, you're not supposed to see somebody get killed. And now in the days of information and you having your phone, we're everywhere. We get to see these things. We get to see Nipsey Hussle getting shot and killed in front of his store. We get to see people. You're not supposed to see that.
You can see the fucking Rodney King tapes, bro.
You can see the Rodney King tapes. It's trauma when you're constantly seeing people of your color being killed in cold blood. So when I seen that, I got upset, and the only way I really kind of know how to sort through I just wanted to get it out of me. So I left my job, like I always do.
Wait, did you leave early?
I left.
You quit your job?
I left.
Wow.
And I told my boss, I said, I gotta do this. I gotta go. She let me come back, but I told her I was leaving. Like, I was leaving for real, and I didn't care if she fired me or not. Because I called up Undercast, and I was like, I need studio time. I need it. And Keem was with me, because he was upset about that too. And we were just talking about, like, bro, this shit is just, we were just real upset. And I remember him coming with me, and he was there with me at the apartment, because I left work, I got with him, because we were so upset. And I sat down on the living room floor. He turned the beat on, we turned the beat on and shit, and I wrote that whole song right there.
Wow.
He got studio time that night. I went into the studio and recorded that shit that night. I was just mad, bro. And then when I did the video, I just wanted to figure out a way I could, with my resources, is use that to get my point across. Because I was fucking upset, dog. And that's the way I fucking vent my shit, is through fucking music. And it just came out that way. But I was upset, bro. That's what that was. And shouts out to my brother for being there with me and helping me. Because he fucking helped me, bro. Like, he was like, bro, because he was just as upset as me. Yeah. Seeing all that shit. And he was like, bro, I'm paying for the studio time. I'm going to get you in there. I called Undercast, and they was like, oh, we got you. You're in here right now. And I was thankful to them for letting me come through and, like, express myself, because I needed to, like, get that out, bro. Because it was just some different shit, bro. But that's what being creative, and that's what music is about. And that's what I use the platform for, is to get all this stuff out and onto that, so I can deal with it in a certain type of way. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, that's like I've said a couple times, I think what you just described, that emotional drive, is that's when you put out your best work.
Right.
You're also good at putting out songs that are cool, where you can flex and do, this and that, and look cool and hype people up.
Yeah.
You're good at that. But I think those times when you're heated and you've got something
yeah,
real
man,
to say.
it's those really fucking honest songs. Like, and it's important that you did that scene where you're in the fucking chains and you got a dude with a gun behind you. It's important that you put that visual out there, because
Absolutely.
otherwise you wouldn't really be doing justice to the situation.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Like, the reason why my favorite track of yours is The Wrath of Cartman, because that is a fucking raw, honest song. And like, bro,
Well, so in Wrath of Cartman, I don't think most of our listeners are familiar with it, because I think a lot of your fan base is more familiar with your more recent work. But in The Wrath of Cartman, you essentially talk about your upbringing.
Yeah. I remember doing that song I think we were at, I don't know where we were at, but I remember
I think we're
doing
at my house.
at your house or some shit. Like, oh yeah, we were at your house. And at that time, bro, all my music was coming out of pure just trying to sort through my emotions from my past and shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And that was a song, you made that beat and it just made me get into this zone where I just wanted to really talk about everything up until that point, as far as my upbringing and where I came from and shit like that. And like that song, like yeah.
So, to people who aren't familiar, you and I come from very different upbringings.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fucked up stuff with my family. It wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But then I met you, and nowadays you've got a kid.
Yeah.
You've got an extremely
Totally different.
a much more stable life than me and
Yeah.
most people.
And
But that's not where you came from.
Nah, bro, I came from foster care. Like my mom, the drug epidemic, the crack epidemic, like the opioid epidemic is now, the crack epidemic came through and it just took people. And my mom was one of those people. And, she just did, a lot of those people back in that time, they just didn't know, bro. They didn't know that they was going to hit the pipe, a crack pipe, hit a drug, and their whole life would be gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to get to a point where I didn't blame my mom for anything that she did. You know what I'm saying? Because if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I'd be here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for, her, so her being out there and just being in that situation led me to the situation of being, thrown into the system at a young age and growing up in foster care. Like, before I got with an actual stable family, I was in like 4 different homes. You know what I'm saying? Different types of homes, like weird ass shit too. Like some of the foster parents, like a lot of these kids that go through foster care, bro, they don't end up in good places. They end up with some weird shit, bro. Like the first home I was in, like some lady was like, I don't know, we had to sleep on the floor and shit. And
Wow.
wear our clothes, like we had to sleep in our clothes and shit.
that was a rule.
Yeah, bro. Like we had to sleep in our clothes.
You
bro,
try to
for the
get
next-
you try to get in your jammies or like just strip
fam,
that.
ain't no jammies, bro. You get in your clothes and shit. You just wear your clothes you're gonna wear for the next day because they didn't.
How many other foster kids did she have?
There was hella other kids in there, and then when I remember walking out one day and I looked over and I seen this girl like look up from the side of a bed or something. It just looked sketchy. You know what I'm saying? Not all foster parents or foster homes are.
What do you
Great.
think? What do you think, long term, like you now as a person? What do you think that going through that did to you? Like, do you think that it? I'm one of those people. Like, I've gone through certain things in my life. My mom dealt with addiction, and she passed away.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that I've been through that I wouldn't change it.
Right.
They were horrible things, but it allowed me to see things in a perspective that made me who I am, and it gave me drive.
Yeah.
Were there certain? Do you feel the same way about those situations, or are you angry towards it? Are you?
No, I feel fine with it. I just, one thing I do wish is that I just sometimes, like when I was that age, there were so many things. Not having parents, not having a father.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's so many things I was naive to that could have been prevented just by having a strong father figure, or just a father to be like, to set things out for you, let you know, like, yo, this is how you be a man. This is what you do. Like, this is what you do in the streets. This is how you treat other people. But for the most part, like, I wouldn't change shit because it gave me the fire that's blazing till this day. I mean, it all hurts. It's all scars. It's all shit that I constantly think about. Like, I don't got a great relationship with my real actual family. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talk during holidays and shit, but it's not like we're all one. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's been like that for years, and I wish it would get better. But would I change the past? No, I wouldn't change the past, because if I did, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I deal with some shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's like,
Of course.
What am I gonna do, bro? Am I gonna sit back and let this shit take me down? Am I gonna sit back and let that fucking define who I am at the end of my life? I'm not gonna do that. I won't. I remember like being on buses and going past like downtown where all homeless people be, right?
Yeah.
Fucking Third Avenue.
Third Ave, bro. And I'll look out the window. I used to look out the window, you know what I'm saying? And be like, I'll never be that. I'll never be homeless. I'll never be homeless.
Yeah.
A couple years later, I'm homeless. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's life though. Life.
But that drive, you're so close to it. And that drive is like, for me, it's like, like with my mom and your mom, addiction is a very present thing.
It's present now, bro.
And well, just having that DNA, you're very close to those things.
Yeah, you're close to it.
Yeah, you or I could be that person.
And the
anytime.
willpower that even having that DNA and the type of shit that we was around and dealing with, like the willpower we have to stay on the course and not let that distract, not let that take us to that realm.
Yeah,
it's a lot, bro. Because it's a lot, dude.
So I remember. I keep going back to when I met you because like we were both in a much different place when we met. All of us were. And I remember like, I barely knew you like a month in, and I remember one thing you kept saying over and over and over again is like, my kids will not go through this.
No.
And here
Bro,
you are.
I gotta say, you have the happiest fucking kid on Instagram.
Dude, he's so goofy.
Like, bro,
He's so goofy.
I got so many.
I love it.
I got so many friends with kids right now, and I see him on Instagram all the time. But I see your kid, and I'm just like,
yeah,
he's in paradise right now.
Yeah.
Dude. He's just.
bro.
There was this video you
chilling.
posted the other day where you're trying to make beats and your kid's just like in the corner, just like, hi.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey.
Well, I saw the one where he's like dropping some shit on your head. It was like a bowl or something. Like,
goofy, dog. He's super goofy.
that's the way it should be, man.
But it's you've really got to give yourself some credit because you've done it. You've put yourself in a position where, you're 27, right?
Yeah.
And you've had a kid, and this kid is living the life that you wanted.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Like, no matter what you go through, if you go through like bad times, you have the choice to sulk about it and like go to one direction, but you also have the choice to like turn it around and learn from it. And that's what you fucking did.
And use it to your advantage. I mean,
exactly. And it's shitty, but it only makes you stronger, man.
Yeah, like I'm not the best. Like I'm not perfect or I'm not the best person in the world, but I did used to say that shit.
You did.
And I meant that fucking shit.
Yeah.
It's my job, bro. It's my job it's not only my job to my son to pass down all these experiences and things and the knowledge that because of the father I had, who I never seen and never know. I don't even know his fucking name, never did that. I had to get everything out the mud, like for real, for real. It's not only my job to do that for him, it's my job to do that for the next his generation coming up.
Change it
They
up.
have to see somebody like people like us.
You have to
doing
evolve, yeah.
things, and we're still who we are. They have to see that, bro, because there's not. When I was young, like I didn't have those type of examples. Like I was looking up to 50 Cent in the game and everybody in hip hop and shit like that. Those are my fathers and shit, because I didn't have a fucking dad. The streets was my father. That's where I had to learn my shit, bro. But if I could warp reality and change that for my son, oh yeah, he's not gonna have that. That's just who am I to let him go through the shit that I went through as a child? Like he wouldn't.
You're not gonna let that happen.
Nah, bro. There's no fucking way, bro. Like you have to. I feel like when you grow up, and this is just what I've learned without having a dad. Like you have to have some fucking honor, bro. You have to stand up for something. You have to be willing to die for some shit in this world. A lot of people, they're not willing to die for nothing. They wouldn't put their life on the line for shit. They go to work, to home, to work, to home. They don't live a life of purpose or anything. They don't take those risky chances that make them feel alive. I live like that, bro. I will do anything to bring up my kid and the next generation. I'm trying to get all these experiences. I'm trying to get all this knowledge, and I'm trying to be the best person I can, like literally extend myself to the best of my power, so that when I'm ready to go, I can take all those downloads and I can give them to my kid and pass them on.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, the two words that keep coming up when I hear this shit is survival tactics. So I mean, it's the plug, but
Nice segue.
yeah, you know. But real shit though. I mean, these are real experiences you've gone through, and you've gone through your period where you're just starting off with rap. You go through a darker period. You go through a period where you're elevating your game, and now you're at a point where you can really look back on the past, not only in your personal life but your professional life, and you can come up with a new album. Yeah. And that was Survival Tactics. I mean, What was that all about? What was your mindset behind all that?
One of them, just being romantic with hip hop and being like, I want to make an album. Like, always like, I love hip hop, bro. I always want to make the classic album. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, that album, like, I just wanted to encompass my life up until that point in an album. I wanted to make an album, all original music, all original beats, everything written by me. And I wanted to put together a story about my life up until that point. And when I called it survival tactics, that's exactly what it was. Survive things I had to do to survive. A mindset I had to be in to survive. Things I had to watch and experience to survive. Lessons I had to learn to survive. That's what I felt like it was. And it was a solo album I did by myself. I paid thousands of dollars for studio time. I paid hundreds of dollars for beats. I did that. And it was I wanted to prove something to myself because I came off an album with someone else and we're helping each other. It was a little bit easier, but still hard. Then I wanted to tell myself, okay, do it again this time, but this time do it all by yourself. Let's see how really serious you are. Cause I'm like that, bro. Like, cause I feel through adversity comes just limit breaking and reaching that next level. So when I made that album, I wanted to show people that I was fucking serious. And I'm not fucking playing with this music shit. I'm not just no fucking rapper coming out the bushes trying to put some shit on a beat and call it hot. And I wanted to show people like, I have stuff to say because when I was younger, bro, I felt like people didn't. I feel like every time I would say something, nobody would listen to me. That was one of the main reasons why I started rapping. Because I felt like I always had shit to say and nobody would really pay attention to me and listen to me. I think that just came from isolation of being like, just in foster care and just being like kind of alone for most of the time. You know what I'm saying? And just kind of feeling like, oh, nobody notices me or will listen to anything I have to say. So through that album, that's what I did. Yeah. And it was something a goal that I seen and I'm like, I want to manifest this in the real life. And I fucking did that shit. And I made actual fucking CDs and shit, bro. Like I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that shit, bro. Yeah, like I put blood, sweat, and tears into that. And it's not easy creating a body of work with, all original music.
Yeah.
All like my life's in that. Like my blood and tears is in that shit. Like
man, you got all the Seattle producers on here.
Yeah, I got Rob Skeets on there. I got LEK on there. He's my guy. And
that first song on the album, that
Greenhaus, that Greenhaus.
Good, yeah.
And that was dope for me because I don't think you weren't producing at that time. You know what I'm saying? Or you took your hiatus, and for me to have that beat from you. And that be the first song, like, yeah. That's why I say sometimes I romanticize like hip hop and shit, because I'm like, oh, I'll bring it back with the first song being like the Kid Greenhaus beat, because that's where it started, and then it'll all progress through all the new stuff that I had created. I like putting stuff together like that. Like I just like being an artist, bro, and putting bodies of work together to not only challenge myself, but to get better and to like give something to the people that they can actually like take time to digest and really enjoy.
Right. Well, speaking on that, man, like you just posted some shit the other day. You've been drawing. Apparently you've been drawing for a long time. Man, but like, what's up with that, dude?
Man, I've been drawing since I was in like third grade, bro. Like I met this kid. I met this kid when I was in third grade, and he would draw the illest pictures ever. Like he would draw these pictures just out of his head and they would look so crazy, and like I wanted to draw like him so bad. But when I get up, like, bro, I wanted to draw like him so bad. So one day I was like, yo, bro, draw me a picture, dog. And he did one of his perfect dope ass pictures, right? And I was like, thank you. I took it home. All I did for the next, this is years, fam, I would just trace it. Damn. Right? I would trace the picture.
That one picture?
I would just, because I wanted to draw. I had no ability to draw.
What was the picture, man?
It was of Goku.
No!
So that's it. Yeah, you're
Dragon Ball Z.
It all makes sense now, man. It all makes sense.
You know what I mean? It all makes sense.
I'm just gonna cut in real quick. I'm sure a lot of people know, but you're a big anime guy.
I'm a big anime
fucking
head.
Naruto, bro. Fucking Bugman.
Dragon Ball fan, anime fan. That's my shit. And I will explain why. It's just because I just love this. I love stories. I used to read a lot of books when I was younger. I love really dense, complex stories, and a lot of anime, man, there's fire, pure fire. But
so with drawing though, so you took this one picture that someone you knew drew and you just traced it and you learned from that?
I kept tracing it. And then I got to a point where I didn't need to trace it anymore. All I had to do was look at it and I could draw it exactly. You dig? But this took years. I had no drawing skill, but I wanted it so bad.
Why?
I don't know, bro. Like, I just gravitated towards it. When I was younger, like, it was amazing how this kid could draw this shit out of his dome on a piece of paper and it looked exactly like the cartoons we was watching. I was just amazed by it and I wanted that ability so bad and I was so obsessed with it. So I took that picture for years. I would just trace it. And then I got to a point where I could draw it without tracing it. And then like even just recently, like years ago, I got to a point where I can draw my own type of characters without needing to look at a reference or anything like that. So like recently when I posted that last post, like I was just freshening up on my skills because I haven't drawn in a while because I've been so busy with music and doing other things. I've just gotten to this place where I just don't really give a fuck about a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? And I want to make sure that I stay who I am. And I amplify that.
It's a weird thing that happens when you start getting older, and I'm sure it's exaggerated for you because you're a father. But for me, it's like every year I feel like I can get away with less and less bullshit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you can't be doing the same dumb shit as you were doing last year. Like you gotta start thinking about buying a house someday, and you gotta start thinking about retirement and all these things.
You always gotta strive to be better, bro.
But there's always something you gotta do, like this podcast where you satisfy that creative side of you. Right. You have to do it, otherwise you completely lose sight of that part of yourself, and that part of yourself is important. Right. It benefits that part of you that works really hard, and that and everything else. Like it's to me almost a form of meditation.
Yeah,
and you have to do it to keep your brain healthy.
It is. I think that comes with all people that are hyper creative. They're just creative like that, or just hyper creative in general. You have to feed that. I remember a time where like I wasn't even like I did a show, right? And like this is around I was performing some First 48 shit. I did a show, nobody showed up. I was like the only person there.
Bro, was that my senior project?
Huh?
You performed for my senior project.
Yeah.
It was you, NAP, and Troy Boy at the lab.
That was
shit. That was my first show.
Nobody showed up to that.
No, there was a couple motherfuckers there.
There were some people, but damn, dude.
Hey,
that was an embarrassing show.
Thank you though. I got 100% on my senior project.
Go,
so thank
bro.
you.
You know I'll do anything to get you 100%, man. You know, hold it down.
One thing I remember, shout out Troy Boy, is like this was the clash of the two cultures coming forward.
Yeah.
Troy Boy,
I already know what you're
so
about
this
to
was
say.
Dan's senior project.
I know what's going down.
We put some money into promoting this show, and me and Trav were headlining, and I remember Troy opened for us, and he comes out on stage. Very first thing he says, he doesn't even sound check yet. He just comes out and goes, he looks at the crowd just with the most disappointment. He's like, man, where the bitches at? And Dan's parents.
It's my parents. It's like my neighbor's parents. My fucking youth minister at the time. Like it's not the crowd.
Anybody that is a minister that is not
no
like
business.
That.
I mean, she was down. She appreciated it, but still.
Though.
And then I remember the show ending with me. Right hand of the stage was our friend Peter. And he had a water bottle full of vodka, and every now and then I'd like look over at him.
Remember that you were drunk as fuck.
And I remember the show ending with me holding a microphone, just being like, "I'm so
100 proof, bro."
Yeah, it was some crazy shit.
Yeah.
And I just remember
you
that
used to drink that shit straight.
I did.
Well, we did.
Oh,
we used to
yeah.
drink 100 proof vodka straight.
Bro, I
We
had to
weren't
be sober
21
for
yet.
that
We drank
show,
whatever
bro.
we could get.
Hell yeah, we'd steal that shit.
Yeah, but I remember it
better than
ending with
brunettes,
me.
man, I'll tell you
I
that.
was like, I could barely make it off stage. I couldn't load stuff off.
Yeah, I remember that. When I left, you were fucked up, bro.
Yeah, I left my car there. We went back. We lived in that house at the time, and I remember waking up.
No, dude, this was high school.
Oh shit. Oh yeah. So I lived in the South
You
End. I
lived in
remember
the South End. I lived on my parents'
I think
house.
you or somebody gave me a ride home.
It wasn't
and
me.
I remember waking up and being like, and I'm like, man, my fucking car is like still up there, and I don't remember how I got up. I think I took 2 or 3 buses. And I get up and the whole parking lot's locked and my car's in there with all my equipment. It was fucked up. Anyways, that's what somehow we keep ending up at where we started, and it's fun.
That's all that matters, man.
That's all that matters.
There's a lot of history there, dog.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and take another break. Thank you for joining us on this very special and very awesome episode of the Trial and Error Podcast. We're going to keep this going, man. We got a flow, and make sure and check us out on trialanderrorpodcast.com. This episode will be available in the next couple of days if you're watching on Instagram Live.
Big facts. Big facts.
Hi, everybody.
We like you guys.
We love you. Thank you for joining us. Trav has an awesome satchel.
You know, Satchel Gang.
We'll be right back. Thank you, guys.